was so important for me to watch this trial. I watched every day of that trial. And there is nobody that watched that trial that walked away and said that Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd. And if Black people are concerned about criminal justice and fairness and all of that, you cannot look at this George Floyd trial and say that it's fair for this man to be in jail.
However, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges. If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years in American life, obviously COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children, led to massive health-related cover-ups, just horrifying all the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape that was shown, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium. There were no accusations, even at trial, that Derek Chauvin had committed a hate crime against George Floyd or that he targeted George Floyd because of his race. Nonetheless, on the basis of extraordinarily scanty evidence, and despite the fact that there was massive pressure on the jury, that the mayor of Minneapolis paid a settlement to the George Floyd family immediately, that the president of the United States suggested.
All right. So before we dig into this, President Trump has weighed in. So on Friday, he said he is not considering pardoning Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer, nor was he aware of any influential conservative podcasters' push to reprieve Chauvin of federal charges. He said, and I quote, "No, I haven't even heard about it," Trump said, when asked whether he's looking at pardoning Chauvin at the request of his allies. "I haven't heard of that." And of course, Elon Musk also retweeted this video of Ben Shapiro saying that he needs to be pardoned. So I know you have strong feelings about this, Crystal. What are your thoughts?
So my first thought is him and Candace could agree on this and they can be friends again. They finally find something that they agree on. Candace Owens has been screaming this, like, she did her greatest lie ever sold, where she highlighted the BLM and the riots, the George Floyd riots, right? I personally, when I first saw it, I was emotional like everybody else. I was like, I even did the 8 minutes and 47 seconds. I did that. We stood in silence. I was all like, not because, I cared about George Floyd, just because I thought it was like, oh, that is kind of sad. But I really wanted to believe that it was true. But as all of the things started coming out and Candace Owens did her viral video talking about George Floyd and how he was not a good person, which is a fact, you guys. He was not a good person. He was a dirty crackhead. That's the truth. And I'm sorry. I know you don't like it. It's the truth. Now, I felt really bad for him, but then when I saw the trial, KJ, it was so important for me to watch this trial. I watched every day of that trial, and there is nobody that watched that trial that walked away and said that Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd. And so we have to think about truth, you guys, and it's important because, when you dig one ditch, you better dig two, because the ditch you dig might be for you. And if Black people are concerned about criminal justice and fairness and all of that, that you cannot look at this George Floyd trial and say that it's fair for this man to be in jail. Like you just like I've been free Chauvin ever since.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that there were he did not receive a fair trial. I do agree with that. But there are a couple things here. As far as the pardon is concerned, I think some people have commented on it. They're saying that it's not he would not want a pardon, and a pardon would not so really help him. And for a couple of things. So basically, because he was found guilty on 2 points. One was federal charges, and one were the state charges.
Mm-hmm.
And so because he was found, he somehow with his plea deal, he wanted to be found guilty on federal too, because he didn't want to be put in a state jail. So because he is a police officer, had he been put in state prison there, they would have really messed him up. Apparently, it's really bad for police officers, especially for something like this that's been so visible, to go to a state prison. So the fact that he wouldn't want a pardon to be, because if he did, even if President Trump did pardon him for the federal, he still has, I think, another 20 years or 12 years on the state charge, and he doesn't want to be put in state prison.
Yeah.
So as far as from what I've been reading, that pardon would not help, and it probably would actually hurt him more so than help him.
Well, I don't know if pardon is what I would say. I think that the thing that Chauvin is guilty of is pride. And we all know that the Bible said pride comes before a great fall. And I do know that from the from the cameras, it looked as though he had his knee on George Floyd's neck. He did not have his knee on George Floyd's neck at all. Like, it actually showed that his knee was on George Floyd's shoulder, and George Floyd was having a panic attack. I mean, he was having a panic attack, and he couldn't breathe. And I feel like Chauvin should have said, okay, all right, and took his knee off of his shoulder. And his arrogance is the reason why he's in prison today. But I will say, arrogance is not a crime, you guys. Like we have to be arrogance is not a crime. And a lot of police are arrogant. Like if you are doing that job, you got to kind of have a chip on your shoulder. What's hurtful to me with Chauvin, and it breaks my heart, is that they made him a racist, and he's not. Like, there's nothing in his history that says he's a racist. They made him out to be this really bad guy. And when you see the videos, you guys got to see the fall of Minneapolis. He was the least aggressive of all of the cops. He got the worst punishment. And he was the one that was really just trying to help. The body cam footage actually showed where George Floyd was massive, you guys. Like, he was huge, and they were small. Derek Chauvin only weighs 150 pounds. Like, he's tiny compared to George Floyd, who's huge. And so the officers were being really, really mean to George Floyd. They were like, get out the car, put your hand on, like, and he's being a dirty, like, he's like, come on, man. He's just being a crackhead. I mean, I've been around him all my life, right? So I see what they act like. And they were being really aggressive. And Chauvin was actually the one that they called. They told him, hey, we need your help. He came. And then, they said, hey, we need your help. He started to come. And then they called and they said, no, we're good. You don't have to come. So he left. And then they called him back. So can you imagine? So then they called him back and they said, no, we really need your help. So then he came back, and all he was doing was overseeing. All he was doing was trying to help them. And so I really think that, if anything, I would pray that God has mercy on Derek Chauvin and grant him clemency. If you want to take away his pension, take away his job, fire him, yes. But being arrogant or being inconsiderate is not murder. And the way that they have made this man out to be a murderous, evil, racist is just not true. And I'm praying for, I pray for his mom. KJ, his mom's testimony broke my heart, y'all. If y'all go and see anything, watch his mom testify. And they got really bad advice from lawyers, in my opinion. They were told to be silent, they were told to not say anything. And we all see how that has worked. That's why I love President Trump. President Trump just says it, and they tell him to be quiet. He doesn't. You're not going to just silence him. And I really hate the way Derek Chauvin, Officer Chauvin, has been treated. And I'm really praying for him. I'm really praying for him, KJ.
Yeah, we certainly need to pray for him in jail. I mean, he's, like someone mentioned, he was stabbed, I think, like 20 odd times.
Yeah. His wife divorced him. His wife left him. Like, he's been punished enough. Like, I mean, seriously. Like, I even talk to people about it who are close to me, and they're Democrats. And they say, you know what, you're right. He's been punished enough. And
it's gonna be, I mean, it's very tough for him to get out. As I mentioned, he's got the federal charges, and he has the state conviction. And there's really no real hope of reversing the state convictions. They're not going to do that. They're now final, because I believe he pled guilty. So let me see here. Yeah, though he went to trial in the state case, he voluntarily pled guilty to the federal charge. In fact, he pled guilty not only to a civil rights charge pertaining to Floyd's death, he separately copped a civil rights allegation of using excessive force against a 14-year-old boy in 2017. Okay.
Yeah, he's gotten bad advice. Like, whoever has helped him has sold him and thrown to the wolves. My only hope is that for clemency, he doesn't deserve to be in jail, y'all. He just doesn't. Like, and I think that it's unfair. Like, George Floyd was a problem. And unfortunately, people like George Floyd end up dead. A person with George Floyd's history and his drug usage and his crimes, he has sown that. He has sown death and destruction into his life. And I'm sorry that he had a heart attack and died on that day. But to paint this man and the other police officers as murderers, I just think it's wrong, KJ. It's wrong.
Yeah, well, because again, he says here, according to New York Post, President Trump would have power to pardon Chauvin only for the federal charges, not the state convictions and resulting sentence. And there is no real hope of reversing the state convictions. They are now final. Chauvin lost his state appeal, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review the case back in November 2023.